Okay. You ever feel like your job description should just say professional BS manager?
Uh-huh.
Because today's deep dive is all about tackling those less than glamorous parts of work life.
Okay.
We're cracking open boost your resilience, bullshit management skills for work.
Right?
And let me tell you, the title alone has me ready to take notes.
Yeah.
Expert speaker. This one feels pretty universal, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. What I find refreshing is the book's blend of humor and real talk.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't sugarcoat the struggles, but
Oh.
it gives you actionable strategies, which is what we all want, right?
100%. And it sounds like the author, Chris, knows what he's talking about from blue collar to white collars. He's seen it all.
Yeah.
But let's jump right into it. The book opens with a story about Margaret, who has a heart attack at work.
Okay.
That's a pretty intense way to start.
That's a brilliant narrative choice.
Yeah.
It immediately makes you realize this isn't about whining or being soft. It's about recognizing that unchecked workplace stress has serious tangible consequences.
It's like, wait, this could actually happen.
Yeah.
It makes the whole thing feel much more real.
Exactly. And he doesn't just leave it as an anecdote.
Right.
Chris connects Margaret's experience to research from the American Heart Association and even studies from Europe and Asia, all showing the very real link between job stress and serious health problems.
So this isn't just Margaret's story. It's something a lot of us are likely experiencing to some degree.
Right.
Which I guess is why he calls the book Boost Your Resilience. It's about giving us the tools to navigate this stuff before it becomes a crisis.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And part of that is knowing when to walk away.
Okay.
Chris dedicates a whole chapter to those situations where leaving a job might actually be the healthiest choice.
Things like having a toxic boss or experiencing discrimination. Situations where no amount of resilience can really fix the underlying problem.
Exactly. And he emphasizes the importance of documenting everything in these situations, not just to protect yourself legally, but potentially to help others who might be facing the same thing.
Oh, wow.
He even shares his own experience filing complaints and warns readers to be prepared for potential pushback from companies.
So he's speaking from experience, not just theory. It's
Right.
one thing to say, know your worth, walk away, but having that real life context makes it feel more tangible, you know?
Absolutely. And it highlights that standing up for yourself, even when it's hard, can create positive change both for you and potentially for others.
Speaking of things that feel hard meetings, can we talk about meetings?
Oh, yeah.
Because Chris dedicates a whole chapter to how inefficient meetings are just another form of workplace BS.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is how he quantifies the problem. He uses an example from his own career where he calculated the true cost of a recurring meeting. It was over $83,000.
Wow.
Okay, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he's not just talking about stale donuts and bad coffee here.
Right. He's factoring in everyone's time, their salaries, the opportunity cost of not working on other projects.
Yeah.
It all adds up. And he uses this to introduce what he calls the mirror test for meetings.
Okay, I'm listening. The mirror test.
It's deceptively simple. After a meeting, imagine looking in the mirror and saying to yourself, I made excellent use of everyone's precious time today. If that feels dishonest, the meeting probably wasn't worth it. It's about holding ourselves accountable for how we're spending our time and, by extension, the company's resources.
I love that because so often we get sucked into these meeting spirals without really questioning if they're productive. It's
Right.
like, oh, it's on the calendar, gotta go.
Yeah.
But this mirror test forces you to pause and think, is this really the best use of everyone's energy?
Exactly. And it connects to Chris's bigger point that companies often get stuck in these traditions and routines without stopping to ask if they're actually effective.
Okay, so we've talked about burnout, toxic workplaces, and the soul-crushing reality of inefficient meetings. But before we dive into Chris's solutions, I'm curious about the side hustle aspect. That seems to be a big part of the conversation these days, right? So last we left off, we were knee-deep in workplace BS, burnout, bad bosses meetings that could have been emails, you know, the drill.
Yeah.
But this book isn't just about complaining, right?
Right.
There's a whole toolkit for building resilience.
Yeah.
And one of the things that caught my eye was Chris's take on side hustles.
Okay.
That seems to be a big part of the conversation these days, right?
Yes. And he's realistic about it.
Okay.
He's not promising overnight riches,
Right,
but
right.
he talks about side hustles as a way to regain a sense of agency, especially when your day job feels soul-crushing.
Okay. I like where this is going.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this agency angle.
It's about taking control, right?
Okay.
If you feel stuck in your career or like you're just going through the motions, the side hustle can be a way to reconnect with your passions, try new things,
Right.
and even develop valuable skills. Chris actually shares his own experience with a car detailing side hustle.
A car detailing. That's not where I expected that to go.
Right, but that's the thing.
Okay.
It wasn't about becoming the next big detailer.
Yeah.
It was about having something that was something he controlled, something he could build in his own time. And he learned a lot through the process, like leveraging existing skills, testing the waters, before going all in and finding fulfillment in the work itself.
I love that. It's like a mini laboratory for your career.
Yeah.
A way to experiment without the high stakes of quitting your job.
Right.
Did he talk about any side hustle failures?
He did.
Okay.
Because, let's be honest, those happen too.
They do.
He does mention a failed attempt, but without going into detail.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because it's a reminder that not every venture will be a home run, and that's okay.
Right.
What matters is that you're learning, growing, and building that resilience muscle.
Okay, so that's external BS, the bad jobs, the pointless meetings.
Right.
But Chris also dives into the internal stuff, right?
Yeah.
The BS we carry around in our own heads.
Absolutely. And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
He talks about how we can sabotage ourselves by chasing external validation.
Okay.
Things like job titles, salaries, the approval of others, instead of figuring out what truly matters to us.
I feel so seen right now. It's like we spent all this time trying to climb the ladder only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall.
Exactly. And to help readers figure out what they do want.
Okay.
What truly aligns with their values.
Yeah.
Chris introduces this powerful exercise.
Okay.
Writing a letter to your younger self.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's like getting advice from your future self, someone who's already been through all the trials and tribulations and come out the other side. What kind of advice does future you get?
It's different for everyone.
Yeah.
But the core message is about remembering what matters most to you. What brings you joy, what you're passionate about. It's about understanding that your worth isn't defined by your job title or your salary.
Okay, I'm already feeling more centered just thinking about it. But let's be real. Even with all the self-reflection in the world, sometimes the workplace is just objectively BS. So how do we actually deal with it in the moment?
That's where Chris's toolkit comes in.
Okay.
And one of the first things he tackles is how our brains are wired to focus on negativity. He calls it the reticular activating system, or RAS.
RAS. Okay. Sounds intense. So our brains are basically programmed for negativity.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
It's an evolutionary thing. The RAS helped our ancestors survive by scanning for threats. But in the modern world, that often translates to focusing on what's wrong, what's stressful, what's frustrating.
Yeah.
The BS, basically.
So it's like we're hardwired to spot the BS even when we'd rather not.
Exactly. And Chris explains how this negativity bias can create a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're always looking for things to be wrong at work, you're going to find them. But the good news is we can retrain our brains to focus on the positive.
Okay, that sounds promising. How do we do that?
Chris introduces a range of techniques, including visualization and meditation.
Okay.
He even has this exercise called the ideal workplace, where you imagine your perfect work environment in vivid detail.
I like where this is going. Paint me a picture. What does the ideal workplace look like?
It's different for everyone, of course.
Great.
But the point is to engage your senses, to really feel what it would be like to work in a place that energizes and inspires you. Maybe there's natural light streaming and the sound of birds chirping, a sense of camaraderie among colleagues. By focusing on these positive details, you're essentially rewiring your brain to be more receptive to positivity, even in your current less than ideal workplace.
So it's like mental training for dealing with BS.
Exactly. You're strengthening your mental resilience muscles. And it's not about pretending the BS doesn't exist.
Right.
It's about choosing where you focus your attention.
Okay, I'm on board with that. But what about those moments when you're just so frustrated you want to scream? Does Chris have any tips for dealing with that kind of pent-up BS-fueled energy?
He does. He calls it smash.
Okay.
And before you imagine taking a baseball bat to your computer, let me explain.
Okay, good. Because while I fully support releasing frustration, I'd rather not get arrested.
Right. Smash isn't about literally destroying things.
Oh.
It's about finding a safe and cathartic outlet for pent-up emotions.
Okay.
It could be hitting a punching bag, going for a run, screaming into a pillow, anything that helps you release that negative energy in a healthy and responsible way.
So it's like channeling your inner Hulk, but in a way that doesn't involve smashing office furniture?
Exactly. And there's actually research to support this.
Okay.
Physical activity, even something as simple as a brisk walk, can help to reduce stress hormones and improve your mood.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But sometimes smashing things, even metaphorically, isn't an option, like in the middle of a meeting, for example. Are there any more, shall we say, office-appropriate techniques?
Absolutely.
Mm.
And this is where Chris's approach gets really interesting. He talks about the power of curiosity.
Okay.
And he uses this unexpected example of watching squirrels.
Okay, squirrels and BS. I'm intrigued.
So think about it. When you see a squirrel, you might just dismiss it as a nuisance.
Yeah.
But what if you took a moment to be curious about it?
Okay.
Where is it going? What is it doing? What's its story?
Huh.
It's a way to break out of your usual thought patterns and engage your brain in a new way.
Okay.
And Chris argues that we can apply this same principle to workplace BS.
So instead of getting sucked into the negativity, you're using it as a springboard for curiosity.
Exactly. It's about
Yeah.
shifting your perspective.
Okay.
Instead of asking, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
You ask, what can I learn from this situation?
Okay. That's actually pretty brilliant. It's
Yeah.
like turning BS into a learning opportunity.
Right. And it's not about ignoring the problem or pretending things are okay.
Right.
It's about choosing how you respond rather than just reacting,
Right.
which is a key theme throughout the book.
Yeah. Okay.
It's about taking control of your own experience, even in a BS-filled workplace.
So we're not just victims of circumstance. We have the power to choose how we respond to the BS.
Exactly. And that's incredibly empowering.
I like it. This is all sounding incredibly useful. But we've still got a lot of ground to cover, right?
We do.
Like, what about those colleagues who are constantly complaining, or those who are always trying to please the boss?
We'll definitely dive into those BS archetypes,
Okay.
and we'll explore even more of Chris's toolkit,
Okay.
including some surprisingly simple but effective techniques for dealing with difficult people.
Well, listeners, you're in for a treat. We'll be unpacking all of that and more in the final part of this deep dive. Stay tuned.
All right, we're back for the final round in our deep dive into Boost Your Resilience, Bullshit Management Skills for Work.
Okay.
And we're about to unlock the advanced levels of BS busting expert
Yeah.
speaker. Last time we were talking about retraining our brains to deal with negativity.
Right.
But this book goes a step further, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about coping.
Right.
It's about changing the game entirely.
Yeah.
Chris argues that one of the most powerful ways to combat negativity is to actually lean into positivity.
Okay.
And he's not talking about empty platitudes or forcing a smile when you're ready to scream.
Right.
He introduces this concept of over-celebrating.
Over-celebrate.
Over-celebrating.
Right.
Okay, now my interest is officially piqued. Tell me more.
It's about actively looking for things to celebrate, both in yourself and in others.
Oh, okay.
And it's not about those generic Employee of the Month plaques.
Right.
Chris is talking about specific, genuine recognition.
Okay.
Like, did a colleague go above and beyond on a project?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just saying, good job,
Right.
take a moment to acknowledge their specific contributions,
Okay.
how their efforts made a difference.
So it's about moving beyond those surface level acknowledgments
Right.
and really homing in on what's worth celebrating. But how does this tie into combating negativity?
It's about shifting the energy, right?
Okay.
When we focus on what's going well.
When we take the time to acknowledge and appreciate the good stuff,
Yeah.
it creates a ripple effect.
Okay.
It boosts morale, strengthens relationships, and makes it easier to tackle those inevitable BS moments when they arise.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like instead of dwelling on the one thing that went wrong,
Yeah.
you're shining a spotlight on the 10 things that went right.
Exactly. And he ties this into the concept of ethical leadership.
Okay.
Because when leaders make an effort to genuinely celebrate their team's successes,
Right.
it creates a more positive and supportive work environment.
Okay, so we're celebrating the wins, big and small. What about those times when things don't go as planned, when someone messes up?
Yeah,
Does Chris advocate for just sweeping it under the rug?
definitely not. He dedicates a whole chapter to the BS of excuses.
Right.
And it's not my fault. We didn't have the budget refrains.
Right.
But his solution isn't about placing blame.
Okay.
It's about shifting the focus to solutions.
Okay, I'm listening. How do we break free from the excuse cycle?
Chris introduces this concept of following the customer.
Okay.
It's about taking a step back and asking, how does this issue, this problem, this whatever you want to call it, impact the customer.
So it's about getting out of our own heads,
Right.
out of those internal BS spirals and looking at the bigger picture.
Exactly. Because when we focus on the customer,
Okay.
when we prioritize their needs and experiences,
Yeah.
it helps us to cut through the BS
Yeah.
and focus on what truly matters.
I love that. It's like a BS busting compass, always pointing you towards what's truly important.
Right. And it's not just about customer service in the traditional sense.
Right.
It's about understanding how your work, no matter what you do, ultimately contributes to the bigger picture.
That's so empowering. It's like even if you're stuck in a BS job, you can still find meaning and purpose by connecting your work to something larger than yourself.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it can also help you to identify areas for improvement,
Okay.
where things are getting bogged down in BS,
Right.
and where there are opportunities to streamline, innovate, and create real value.
Okay, that's huge. But let's be real. Sometimes the BS isn't just about inefficient processes or missed deadlines. Sometimes it's about actual ethical dilemmas.
Yeah,
Does Chris go there?
he does, and he doesn't sugarcoat it.
Right.
He acknowledges that there are often gray areas
Yeah.
where the right thing to do isn't always clear.
Which can be its own form of BS, right?
Exactly.
Like, wait, so what am I supposed to do here?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But even though he doesn't offer easy answers,
Right.
he does provide a framework for navigating these tricky situations.
Mm.
He encourages readers to familiarize themselves with their company's code of conduct, seek guidance from trusted mentors, and most importantly, to listen to their own inner compass.
So it's about building that ethical muscle memory so
Right.
that when you're faced with a tough call, you're equipped to make a values-aligned decision.
Absolutely. And he emphasizes the importance of documentation.
Okay.
If you see something that feels off document,
Mm-hmm.
it not only protects you, but it can also help to create a record of accountability.
Okay, that's super practical advice. But this has been a whirlwind of BS-busting wisdom.
It has.
Is there one final nugget of brilliance you want to leave our listeners with?
There is. And it might sound surprisingly simple,
No.
but it's incredibly effective. Chris calls it draw a picture and use insights.
Draw a picture. Okay, now I'm really curious.
I know, right? But think about it.
Okay.
How often do we get stuck in our own heads
Yeah.
trying to articulate a problem
Right.
or explain an idea,
Mm-hmm.
and it just comes out sounding like
Yeah.
BS?
All the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when we take a moment to actually visualize the situation,
Yeah.
to draw it out,
Right.
whether it's a flowchart, a diagram, or even just a simple sketch,
Mm-hmm.
it helps us to see the issue from a new perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It can uncover hidden patterns, highlight bottlenecks, and even spark creative solutions that we might not have considered otherwise.
So it's like taking all that abstract BS
Sure.
and turning it into something tangible, something you can actually wrap your head around.
Precisely. And the use insights part is crucial too.
Okay.
It's about backing up your ideas with data and evidence.
Right.
Don't just draw a pretty picture.
Yeah.
Use research data and real-world examples to support your case.
It's like, I'm not just complaining about the BS. I'm presenting you with a well-researched, visually compelling case for how to fix it.
Exactly. And it's about using those insights to inspire action.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, that's what BS busting is all about, creating positive change.
Okay, I'm so on board with this. I'm already picturing myself walking into my next meeting with a stack of colorful diagrams ready to blow everyone away with my BS busting brilliance.
I love it. That's the spirit.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It has.
I feel like I've gone from BS avoidant to BS resilient in the span of an hour.
Me too.
Man.
And that's the beauty of this book. It gives you the tools and the mindset to not just survive the BS, but to thrive in spite of it.
So listeners, what are your go-to BS busting techniques? Have you tried any of the strategies we've discussed today? We want to hear from you. Hit us up on social media and share your stories. Until next time, remember, you're stronger than the BS.